So we have Ryan Paterson here. Welcome
Hey, buddy. Good to be here.
to the first ever Why Are You Funny? You and I have worked together many times. I know you're a very funny man. You've been on CBC, you've been on Just for Laughs, you've been doing stand-up comedy for 13 years. And in fact, this coming weekend, you're headlining Big Deal at the comic strip in Edmonton, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of my home club where I started out, so.
So the name of this, YouTube, I call it a YouTube series, sounds really fancy, is Why Are You Funny? So
Right.
I'm going to start off with that question. Although when you look it up on the internet, I spelt it with letters. So Y, the letter Y, the letter R, and then funny.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of not that.
yeah,
Yeah, it's smart, but not that funny.
yeah. It's just, but it's clever, you know?
It's like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
Clever.
yeah. I just wanted to. So I'll ask you the question: why are you funny? Why are you the way you are?
I think I think I'm funny because I came from a pretty messed up background. Like I was talking to you a bit before about it, but I came from like a single parent on social assistance, and you had two options. Either like you kind of had to derive humor from it just to survive, especially with like bullies and stuff. Um, and I honestly think that's when I started becoming funny was if there was bullies or people wanting to fight, and I just was a scrawny kid, so I just would make them laugh, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, this is kind of working. This is kind of I'm making friends by making them laugh.
And where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Winnipeg, so yeah, so I grew up in downtown Winnipeg, and then just kind of going from public housing. We grew up in so just public housing kind of through some unique parts of Winnipeg.
Okay, so you had like a compared to most people quite a tough upbringing.
Oh yeah, man. Like I went to 7 different high schools
Oh wow.
just because moving around so much, and so from grade 7 to grade 12, 7 different high schools, just because of transportation and stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, so
yeah.
you had this tough upbringing. You're growing up. Is there a specific age where you sort of it dawned on you that like you know there was a negative situation or a scary situation where you made somebody laugh or you used comedy or levity and it helped? Like, do you remember a moment?
I Yeah, I think so. Probably like I would probably say grade 7. I would think like grade 6, grade 7. When you started like, especially if you like, yeah, going into high school. Um, yeah, making people laugh. I think actually when I was in grade 7, I found an old pair of glasses and one of the lens was missing.
Yeah.
And so I just wore it and just pretended like everything was normal. And then people were like, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. Like,
Yeah.
it was kind of, so I just started wearing it around. And then the teacher was kind of making fun of me. And then I just was still pretending. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
So
there's,
for you, for you in a lot of ways, humor was like just a way to kind of you're going from school to school, um, to almost kind of make friends to fit in. Like, was it about that?
oh yeah, for sure. It was a preservation technique for sure. Just to kind of, yeah, it was a survival technique to be quite honest. And
And
then,
did it work?
oh yeah, yeah, it worked for sure. Because then people wanted to hang out with me, right? They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, he's funny, and yeah, and then also too when people were having crappy times going on, they'd be like, "Oh, invite Rhino. He makes a
Yeah.
joke out of everything. He's kind of like, he's kind of funny." Because I don't, and to this day still, I don't, I know when to take things serious, but a lot of the
Sure.
times I don't, which of course can backfire, with girlfriends and stuff.
Well, that sort of leads me to my next question. Did it work with the ladies?
Oh yeah, well,
Did it really?
because yeah, but I mean, it's just a sense of humor, of course, can like a sense of humor.
Well, listen, I had a sense of humor growing up, and I did not do well with the ladies.
Well,
But
I mean, when you say work with the ladies, like I was no Hugh Hefner. When I
yeah,
say work with the ladies, it just meant that they just they didn't hate me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know
So
what? Fair enough. So,
yeah,
okay, so that sort of answers why you're funny, and I think a lot of people, and this is part of this program, is to kind of get, why you're funny, and then, a lot of people ask me if I'm saying I'm going to go do some stand-up comedy, kind of, hey, how'd you get into that, or how did you have, the balls to get in that? So I think a lot of people want to know, where was the transition? You're kind of the funny guy, you're funny amongst your peers, but when does it go from that to actually thinking about getting on stage? Was it always in your mind, or was there a moment?
yeah, it was always in my mind. And then um, when I was 27 or 28, I moved to Edmonton and I started bartending at the comedy club.
Oh
And
wow.
I had wanted to try comedy in Winnipeg, but I just kind of never got around to it. I had other things to worry about. And then I moved to Edmonton, and then I just was bartending at the Yuck Yucks in Londonderry Mall. And then I just started going an amateur night. It just was so much fun. It just was like clicking, and it
Before,
was like,
before you had started bartending at the mall, had it been in your mind to do stand up?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So it was
Yeah.
there before you ever approached a comedy club.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I had done some I had done some improv in Winnipeg, like just some low level stuff, and took some
Yeah.
classes. But I was like, man, this is really fun. And then I thought, I'm like, if you do stand up, it's different than improv because you're in charge of the show, and you
Yeah.
get to do improv and you get to write. Like, so it was kind of the total package to me.
Plus improv, like they're just weird people.
They're
Like nobody,
yeah, they're weird. Like
nobody
no, they're just like, yeah, they're weird, and they think the same thing about stand up comedians
about
too. And it's
stand-up
like,
comics.
yeah, like you guys are weird.
Do you think most comics before they do stand-up have been thinking about it for 10 years?
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless they're like 18, but for sure most. Yeah, right. For sure, for sure. Because Paul, think about how many people you meet too. That I would say like about a quarter of the men I meet when you tell them that you do stand up, they always say they're like, "Man, I always wanted to try it."
Yeah, I know.
I
It's
think
true.
I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people actually they're like, "I want it. I really want." A lot of people's a lot of people surprise me just how much of the people think they're actually funny.
Like,
They're like, I was,
yeah.
like a lot. My friends tell me I'm really funny and I should try stand up. And I'm like, it's probably a good thing you didn't because I've been talking to you for an hour and you're a pretty boring human.
Yeah, especially whenever you tell somebody you do stand-up comedy, and yeah, you know what? A lot of my buddies they tell me I'm great, I'm really funny, like I think I could do it. So, and as a lot of comics know, I mean, it's not to say they couldn't be funny, but there's definitely a difference between being funny around your family or friends than doing it on stage.
Oh yeah, and a lot of comics too. I mean, at least half of them that I've met, they're actually completely different people off stage. They're
Yeah,
not. They're kind of quiet or they're not that funny.
yeah.
And then they go on stage and you're like, what? Where did this person come from?
Wow, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, yeah, it's the opposite for me. I'm like funny around all my friends, and when I go on stage, it's just like, wow, we thought he would be good, but he's not. It's better to
I
have
think I'm.
they sort of you're the
Oh yeah.
underdog. You know what I mean? Where they're like, really, I never thought he would be, or he or she would be into comedy, or they don't seem funny, but then they go on, and you're like, wow, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is weird too, because it's not like I'd be like a musician just plunking away in the guitar and they suck, and then they go on stage.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, oh my god.
yeah, yeah.
Look at,
It's terrible. And then, oh my God, you're amazing.
yeah.
Um, I think that's really interesting. I think talking to a lot of comics, and that's why I wanted to do this. Just we all have a story, I think, on why you decided to go up on stage, and that story really starts a lot. The day, before the moment you go up on a comedy stage, it starts for a lot of people 30 years back or 20 years
Oh
back.
yeah,
It's
for
a
sure.
slow progression of your psyche, whether it's a family upbringing like yours, or whether it's, for me, it was more just kind of a moment in school where I said something and everybody kind of laughed. I went, oh, there's some attention. There's a way to get, friends and accepted, and just kind of kept riding that, that wave. But it can be, humor can be used for so many different things, whether it's, self-preservation or popularity, or, even for evil in some ways, bullies. There's probably some pretty funny
Oh yeah.
bullies out there. You're going, my God,
Yeah.
don't say anything to them. Like bully
Yeah,
comments.
for sure.
I
Well,
think
especially too if you get good at making fun of people.
yes, yes,
And also, I mean, like starting off in Alberta, I mean, my first road gig was in Fairview. So Fairview's that's like a small town, northern Alberta, and as soon as you come in, like they're just like this
yeah,
guy better make me laugh, like because I think I'm funnier than him. Like, and so it was a good place to start for sure in northern Alberta, like starting off in some of those oil patch towns, right? Because there's
yeah,
like you
yeah.
come in and it's a bunch of alpha guys. It's a bunch of guys sitting there and they're like, this guy better make me laugh.
And now you're in Vancouver. Couldn't be
Yeah,
more.
yeah, you're in Vancouver. You couldn't be more. I remember like first moving from Alberta to Vancouver, and then just being kind of aggressive with the crowd, and they were
Yeah,
like scared. They're like, "Oh my god, this guy's like."
yeah. I did a show Yuck Yucks here in Vancouver, and they were just like horrified. It was my first one after moving from Edmonton, and yeah, had to tone her down a little bit. Just
Oh yeah, especially like I remember my first heckler in Vancouver. I forget what they said, but it probably was something like, like I bet you eat gluten, or I don't know. But like,
I bet you eat meat. Yeah.
and then I just treated them like a Northern Alberta heckler, and I just went after them hard.
And it wasn't.
And then I could just, and the whole crowd was like, "This guy's really mean," I was like, "Okay, I gotta."
Well, in Alberta, they throw beer bottles at you. Here, I was doing a show and somebody threw avocado toast at me.
Yeah.
That's not true. All right, listen, Ryan Paterson. Now we know why you're funny.
All right, thanks, man. It's been fun.
And you are funny.
So are you.
Not to mention, super cool and handsome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks for doing this, buddy.
All right, man.
Okay, we'll talk to you.
Okay.